nervous, Jimmy.
It's okay, man. You can.
I wanted to get through this and run out before I had to pay for the tickets.
But we gonna get them tickets now.
Captain, you gonna be to the Freedom Fund?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I know Murphy's gonna be. He already got an ad and everything.
I'm gonna be there. Jimmy already made sure of that.
And you wanna add too?
Huh?
Can you get an ad? So when they look in the book, they can see
Yeah, I'll get it.
this face
Yeah.
that's gonna represent.
All right. You can twist that arm a little bit more if you want. It's okay. No, I'd like to thank Reverend Gore. He called me about 2.5 weeks and asked me to come here and address the NAACP. And when I told my wife that I was speaking in front of the NAACP, she gave me some instructions.
Uh-oh.
Really, she said, 1, don't try to be funny. 2, don't bother trying to be smart. So I looked at her and I said, what you trying to say? And she's like, yeah, just be yourself. I'm like, this is my wife trying to keep me grounded.
Amen. Right.
And we all know the wife is the boss, and what she said goes. And I've been married 17 years, so I understand exactly where she's coming from.
You're gonna be the boss for 1 year.
No, I'm the boss like you.
Yeah.
When I'm by myself, that's when I'm the boss. But I wanted to speak about something tonight, and it's about the American dream. And is the American dream still alive? And is everyone capable of experiencing it? What is the American dream? And that's my question for everyone here tonight. Is the American dream still alive? And is every one of us, still capable of experiencing the American dream? A little bit about me. I was born in the Bahamas, and I came here 25 years ago. 25 years ago to go to college, because I knew that America was the land of opportunity, the land of hope and freedom. And it was that beacon of hope that drew me, and drew 1,000 people a day, actually, to come to America to experience this. To experience the same opportunities that every born United States citizen has the privilege of enjoying. I came here, graduated from University of Miami with a degree in chemistry. I met my wife there 23 years ago. And we built a life together. We worked hard, stayed clean, did what we were supposed to do, and I earned my U.S. citizenship. And I can say today that America has adopted me as its very own son. And I didn't know that I had family members living in this community before I came here.
Uh-oh.
So here I am saying that when I'm homesick, I fly to the Bahamas to get me some, peas and rice and macaroni and cheese and all that good stuff. I had to fly there. I live 20 minutes from my uncle. So now when I get homesick, I call on the phone. I'm Margaret, what you cooking? And I drive on up, get some good home-cooked meals. And it's that family environment, that family unity, that family unit that holds us together. And that's the core of our community. Not just a family, but our church. And we should be, embracing that. And our young people should be embracing that. And we should be nurturing and fostering the family unit. Too many of our young children today are born out of wedlock. As a matter of fact, it's 60%. So what are we teaching our kids? Who are our mentors? Who are our leaders? One thing that struck me when I came here to the United States was the difference in the attitudes of the countries. The Bahamas is predominantly a homogeneous society where race doesn't play a part in our culture. When I came into the United States and filling out an application, I was looking down at the application, and I was perplexed because I saw, choose your race. Now, my wife is Jamaican, and she was, in her country, the words that they say that unifies the country is out of many, one people. How can we as Americans say that we are one people when we're still divided along racial lines? When every application that we fill out has race on it.
It does.
What does it mean when they ask you that? Are they trying to determine whether or not sometimes you can get a job? Whether or not you're going to be accepted into the university or the colleges? What does it mean? Now, I know the NAACP was born out of necessity. Necessity that I didn't have to experience in the Bahamas. Because growing up there, we were all considered equal. And I thought that's what this country was built on, that premise. This week we remember the death of Abraham Lincoln, who said that this country, this nation was conceived of liberty and born on the proposition that all men and women are created equal. But you don't see that equality, and that's why the NAACP is so vitally important. And that's why it was created. Created almost over 100 years ago by a diverse group. It wasn't just created by black people or white people. It was created out of diversity, out of a need so that we can experience political equality, economic, socially, and financial equality. But have we achieved those goals of the founding mothers and fathers of the NAACP? Are we there yet? There were 3 defining moments in this country's history where the NAACP was integral. 1, in its formation. 2, during the civil rights movement. And 3, in 2008. We all know what happened in 2008. A black president was elected. So why do we have to galvanize our own around 3 major events? We should be integral and important in our community every single day. Motivating the young generation every single day, inspiring them, being mentors to them. We cannot just wait for one shining moment in history to come and say, we're going to come together, and this is what we're going to rally around. It makes us obsolete. We should be engaging our young people every single day. Our church should be engaging our young people. Our local leaders, our community. We cannot wait for one moment in time to say that we're going to be unified. I'm looking at this crowd. Where are our teenagers, our 20-year-olds, if we don't do something to motivate them and inspire them? This organization will cease to exist. We need younger leaders, people who our community can rally around. We need to get politically active. Because if we do not, and I'm talking about politically active in both parties, because if we do not, then our voices will fall on deaf ears. Right now in the state legislature, we have a Republican-dominated state government. We have 1 black Republican in all of the state legislature. We cannot, as a people, as a community, continue to vote one party. In 2012, when our president was reelected, got 95% of the vote. In this district, a young, rich, white kid got more votes from the Democratic Party than the president, percentage-wise, 98%. And you try to tell me that is a representation of who we are in our community? That he can represent our people? I say no. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it out straight. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Here's the truth. You cannot have political equality if our community, continues to vote in lockstep with one party. We cannot. How can you say that our unwavering loyalty to the Democratic Party has truly made us whole? Now, my party, Republican Party, has made some mistakes of staying away from the black community because they view us as a lost political cause. and forgive my French, but that's been a damn stupid move. And I'll tell that to John Boehner, I'll tell that to Mitch McConnell, and I'll tell it to any other Republican who says otherwise. My own party has worked hard, hasn't worked hard enough in the past to win your vote. They've worked harder to push you away. You cannot say that you want a party, I'm talking about the Republican Party, to say you want a party to be diverse, that we want to be inclusive of everyone. When you continuously pass laws and say, I'm going to be, and say stupid stuff, I want it to be more explicit, but say stupid stuff that push us away. And you say you want to be inclusive. You say you want diversity. Your actions and your words say otherwise. But the Democratic Party takes your vote for granted. They think your minds are so closed that all they need to do is get you to the polls and you'll vote for them. Well, I'm here today to give you some real talk. And any party that takes your vote for granted just don't deserve it. And any community that writes off any candidate from any other party might not deserve to be heard either. Like I said, at the state level, you have one black Republican. So tell me, if you don't have equal representation in both parties, how are you equal politically? How is your concerns being addressed? How are your voices being heard? How are your concerns being met? If you want input on topics like stand your ground, voting rights, job creation, and education, you must first be in the room where those topics are being discussed and the decisions are being made. And in a Republican-dominated legislature, you're not there. Sure, you have a Democrat representing this district, but you still don't have representation. The same is true in Washington, D.C. One black Republican in all of Congress. 0 in the House of Representatives. 1 in the Senate. Now, we believe that we'll have the majority in the House in 2014, quite possibly the Senate, and maybe even the presidency. If those things come to fruition, and you don't have representation in the Republican Party in Congress, you don't have representation. And if and when this happens, the black community will struggle to be heard simply because all of your voices reside in one party. This cannot be allowed to happen. And that will not be because the Republican Party is blocking us out. It's going to be because that's how you voted. That's our own community stuck in a rut that deprives us of power and influence and a voice in Washington and in Tallahassee. And this, my friends, is not political equality. Political equality requires that the right leadership, that we have the right leadership nationally. And I ask you, who are our leaders? Is it Jesse Jackson? Is it Al Sharpton? These men had a role and a time. Are our young people looking at them as mentors and people that they can follow and lead? Most of you have parents. Some of you walked in that time during the civil rights movement, and fought so that I can stand here today before you and say that I'm running for U.S. Congress. You have paved that path on which I now walk. And I can tell you today with all sincerity, I will not dishonor the blood, sweat, and tears that my forefathers worked so hard for. I will not dishonor the blood, sweat, and tears that my forefathers struggled so hard for so I can be here. We see more young men and women, more young men being incarcerated and going to college. And that's a dishonor and disservice to those of you who struggle so hard to fight for the equality that we so struggle for today. Our young women are outpacing our young men. And when they are at that level where they are professional, beautiful black women, and they have so much pride in their community and their people, and they want to come back and find a good young black man to hold on their arm. There are so few of them around. And I will tell you, when I have my daughter, I don't want her, quite honestly, dating or marrying a man who is not of her equal and who doesn't have a record. That's not the values we want to teach our children. I would rather have my son look at Dr. Ben Carson as an example. I want my child to grow up and say, I want to be like Ben, not like Mike. Too many of our children look at entertainers, rappers, athletes as their mentors and their heroes. But those who aspire, those who reach those goals, 1 in a million. Dr. Ben Carson doesn't come from a background that we're all not familiar with. He came from a single mother who could not read, but she made sure that her sons got a college education. And now Dr. Ben Carson is one of the most foremost neurosurgeons in the world. A single mom created that. Why aren't we telling that story? Why aren't we holding him up as an example for our kids to follow? Why aren't we holding up as heroes those young African American men and women who are serving our country in the military, putting their lives in harm's way so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we have today? Those are our heroes. Those who I want my kids to aspire to be like. Educators, servicemen and women, those who wear the uniform with pride, those who wear the badge of a police officer. You can't become a police officer if you have a criminal record. You can't blame anyone or any circumstances because Dr. Ben Carson proved it. Oh, I didn't have a father to guide me. I know you didn't. But you have men of quality and standard in your community who you could have called on to help you in your time of need, in your time of trial. Look around this room. You have good men of high standing and high quality. Reverend Gore, Jimmy's Barbecue. My cousin, David Anderson. My uncle, Emerson Patton. These are men, and there are many more, but these are men who are examples, who have a family, who hold their family together no matter what the struggles. And this is what we should be aspiring and teaching our kids to look for. But when we have men who have used this community and wandered from the path of service to the people and be consumed with fame and politics by television lights and private jets, that's not the men who I want continuing to lead us. Like I said, they had their time, they had their moments. So we need new leadership from young people who can reach back to the next generation and say, I will help you along this path just like you have helped me pave this path. I need to put another brick on that path instead of patching the holes and coming out when there's a national issue. At what point will we wake up and realize that we have strong people who have died for this community to succeed, who are still fighting a good fight, who have our best interests at heart, who really mean to do us good and not profit off our strife and struggles? I'm going to say this real, and some people may not like it, but I can stand here today and say that I do not follow Al Sharpton. He had his moment, he had his time. I do not follow Jesse Jackson. I cannot. They're not the men I look up to, they're not the men I consider as leaders of this community. I'm talking about the black community as a whole. I can ask a 17-year-old, who's your hero? Those two names have never come up. They might say LeBron, they might say Kobe, they might say Michael Jordan. But in a greater sense, politically, socially, who are our next generation of heroes? Why are we not mentoring them? Why are we not getting outside of our comfort zone and walking in the neighborhood and asking these kids, why the heck are you sitting on the stoop? What are you doing with your life? Let me show you, where do you want to be in 5 years? And let me show you how you can get there. But I'm not talking about just talking to these kids. I'm talking about walking them through the process. Leadership should be about uplifting us, healing our wounds, and setting the right example for young people. Real leadership comes from service to the people we represent, no matter what party, and if I'm in Congress, my door and my mind will be open to every person in this community. Black, white, rich, poor, successful, struggling, lifelong Floridians, or even immigrants like myself. When we look back to the formation of the NAACP, we see true leadership born out of diversity, able to cross racial barriers to work towards equality. Today's NAACP leadership has become extremely partisan, to the point where we're getting further away from Dr. King's dream of having all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, working together towards ensuring that his dream, the American dream, is still alive for everyone. The courage and spirit of the NAACP at its founding is still in our veins today. But we have let it get polluted by politics and thinned by excuses. I am running this year to be your United States Congressman for District 18, to recapture the brand of leadership too many folks have lost. I am running to put people before politics with humility and honor, with an open mind and a willing heart. This country has blessed me. Like I said, it embraced me as its adopted son. It has blessed all of us in our own individual ways, no matter the suffering or the struggle. We are a people and a country, and we must remember this, a people and a country blessed by God.
Amen.
Thank you.
And with all due respect, I listened very carefully to what you said, and it's very inspiring and motivating. And one thing that kind of disturbs me is that you said the core values of the family and the church, and you're talking about where are the young people. Well, they're out the door right now. And if you want to make a difference and what you're saying, you know, my recommendation would be to you, this is just my personal opinion, okay, would be to come out of your suit and tie, go out there and walk with them and talk with them and just listen, not judge them for where they are right now, but just listen and get to know them, because that generation and those out there are going to be the ones that are going to make the difference. They're going to be the ones, but we have to be in a position to condition them to go vote. They're not even thinking about voting. A lot of this community, Martin County, and our culture are not even thinking about voting if we cannot feed our families, if we don't have the necessary things that we need. So I am listening, but I cannot hear you.
Okay,
and that's what the issues are.
Let me give you an example, okay? And I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. And most times when I engage kids, young men, young women, I don't wear this. They see me, if I wear this, they see a politician coming a mile away, okay? I had a young man who I met about 6 months ago. And I was at the gym working out, and these kids, they think I'm their age, they could be their father. And he asked me to work out with him. I said, sure. So we talked about conversation, and in that conversation, I discovered that he was trying to get into the Marines. And I said, what do you mean trying to get in the Marines? You go and you take the ASVAB, you see the recruiter, you take the ASVAB, you go to the maps, you get sworn in, and you go. So, long story short, he had a record. And I didn't know this when I first started to help him, because I took him around, he needed letters of recommendations. So, this is me coming out of my comfort zone. I took him to friends of mine who are elected officials. I have only known this kid for 2 weeks. I vouched for him, like I've known him for 10 years. I got 2 mayors and a vice mayor to write a letter of recommendation for this kid as if they've known him for decades. And I asked him when we were all done, I said, I need something back from you. And he said, great. Everybody wants something in return. I said, yeah. I said, what I've just done for you, you bring me a 16-year-old kid who you're going to mentor. And don't just give me his name, bring him to me. A week later, he brought me 3 16-year-olds that I see every week for lunch, and it's expensive. They can eat. Okay? Now, I didn't wear my Republican badge. I didn't go as if I'm somebody. But during the time we spent together, he came back to me. Oh, by the way, with the letters of recommendation and everything, he still couldn't get in because of his record. So I told him, bring me his case file. I read it. He had 5 charges. 2 as an adult, 3 as a minor. These occurrences happened when he was 17. So I made an appointment to speak with the judge. I didn't ask him to expunge his record. I asked her to reduce the charges. All minor, they're sealed. He took that back to the recruiter. The young man's in boot camp right now. And I'm seeing 3 kids every year, every week. So I am out there walking the community and making an impact in people's lives daily. I'm not just talking about it, I'm working with the kids.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And plus, when we had our food bank truck, you came out and helped feed. So
Yeah.
you do come around.
I do come around.
Which we're
And
doing
it's not-
tomorrow.
Oh, you was
I-
at, you
yeah.
got our fish fry.
I was a fish
But
fry.
I'm
Yeah,
listening,
but I'm talking about making a tangible impact in
Right.
people's lives today,
Right.
where, and you know, I told him at the end, I said, I'm doing this for selfish reasons. He said, what do you mean? I said, I need to make sure that you're able to take care of yourself, take care of your family, because if I don't do that, you can resort to crime.
That's right.
I said, I need my wife to be safe when she's jogging at night.
That's right.
So it's selfish I'm doing this.
That's right.
So, yes.
I got a question. Okay, so you mentioned kids, you mentioned community and history, and thanks for the history lesson. But if you're gonna be in the US Congress, you wanna know about your platform, didn't really hear a lot about that. So a lot of the laws that come from the Republican side of the House don't seem to benefit us as a community. So I just wanna know, would you have voted in favor of the Paul Ryan budget plan?
Paul Ryan budget plan, which one? The first one or the second one?
Either, just tell me.
I'll tell you, I came out publicly and said I would have voted against it. Okay? Here's the reason why I would have voted against the Paul Ryan budget plan, the first one last year, is because it takes benefits away from our veterans. Anything that does harm to those who ensures us the freedoms and liberties we have today, I am going to vote against it. I think first and foremost, take care of those who take care of you.
That's right.
And our veterans sacrifice so much to give us so much that I will not vote on anything that will take benefits away from our veterans.
All right.
Period.
I'm a veteran.
So I would have voted against it.
There's a two-part question, and then I'm done. What about, as far as you agreeing with the Republicans that, agreed to shut down the government just to oppose the Obamacare?
I thought the government shutdown was a stupid move. And it hurt not only the country, it hurt the party too. And I would have voted against shutting down the government because I thought it was a silly move. And when you shut down the government, it's political maneuvering, but it hurt the people who I'm supposed to represent. It hurts my neighbors, it hurts me. It hurts everyone. And let me tell you how it hurt me politically. It hurt me because I was getting ready to file my candidacy on October 1st. The government got shut down. By the time it was open, I wasn't able to file till mid-November. Then here comes the holidays, so nothing got started. So politically it hurt me, politically it hurts my party, and socially and economically it hurt my community. So I would not have voted to shut the government down. And you know what? The government didn't have to shut down. I knew the government was going to shut down, and this goes to thinking outside the box and having people have your back and having the right representation. A week before, the federal government voted that in the event of a shutdown, they will continue to fund the military. So I knew it was going to shut down. Now, any Republican or any politician who was willing to put a target on themselves and step outside of their comfort zone, would I have voted for that bill to fund the military in the event of a shutdown? Do you think that if every politician voted no on that bill, the government would have shut down? They would not have shut the government down if they didn't fund the military. Got to think on that. So who would have been strong enough to go against their party and say, or against the people and say, I'm not going to vote to fund the military. Now work with that. Yes.
Okay, this evening you started out your comments by saying that race doesn't play a part or didn't play a part in the Bahamas, and race shouldn't play a part in how we vote, and that the issues that Democrats are taking the black vote for granted. Well, first of all, if race shouldn't matter, the fact that it's a young rich white boy that is representing the Democratic Party and the issues of the community, then it shouldn't matter. If you're holding true to what you said. Secondly, if you're saying that the Democrats take our vote for granted, true that may it be, does the agenda of the Republican Party speak to the American dream? Does it speak to the possibility of us reaching the American dream? When you say that a part of the American dream is the right to vote, and then the Republican Party are putting roadblocks in every day to keep black people from voting, and we should be a black Republican. We shouldn't be a nothing Republican or a nothing Democrat if the Democrats was trying to stop us from voting. If you say that we are a socialist economy, we got a socialist president that's trying to give handouts to blacks and whites and poor, at the same time when the Republican Party are putting in tax breaks that would only take and send all our jobs overseas, and we standing on the corner unemployed, can't get a job because there are no jobs. So therefore we're going to turn around and say, we sorry, we shiftless, we lazy, we don't want to work. It ain't because we don't want to work, it's because all the tax breaks have been incentivized for all the manufacturing jobs that we used to enjoy to be able to take care of our families are no longer here. So if just by mere virtue of being, we shouldn't all be at the Democratic table, some of us should be at the Republican table, we should be at the table that best represents our agenda. Well, the Democratic Party may not always speak to our agenda, but true enough, One thing we know for sure and two things for certain, that the Republican Party agenda does not benefit no black people, and it definitely and very few white people. When you say to me, because that I can't get health care, that we shouldn't give people health care, and we make up all these fallacies why Obama care, as people call it, is not beneficial. It has done equally as much good as we have glitches and everything. People apply for food stamps and have to go back on the phone and on the line for days in and days out. People understand glitches in computers and situations of that sort. So to stand up here and to tell us that because we have a white, young, rich boy representing the Democratic Party and representing us, we are being taken for granted and it should be a mistake. My thing is this: if we got a white, young, rich boy that's representing our agenda, then he's representing our agenda. But the travesty is to have a young black boy, rich or poor, to be at the table and understand that his party is not representing our agenda and to be okay with it. Then that's a fallacy.
If you heard also what I said in my speech, is that I said even my Republican Party has made some really damn stupid moves that push us further away from them instead of embracing us. Now, I did not say that because you have a rich white kid representing you that you're... What I'm saying is that in order for us to have our issues addressed, our issues met, our concerns addressed, we need to have equal amount of blacks in the Republican Party as we have in the Democratic Party. Otherwise, when you have a majority in the Republican Party, like we have in the state legislature, you can have Democratic representation all you want, but your issues in a Republican-dominated legislature is still not going to be addressed. But we need to have more of us in the Republican Party. That's the only way we can have it addressed. I have a friend in Fort Lauderdale, and he's a Democrat, and he said that, oh, we're going to change that. We're just going to vote all of you guys out of office. That's unrealistic. It's really unrealistic. Instead, because, you know, I like to think that I'm kind of versed in some history. And if you look at all the great nations of the world in history, they've never been conquered from outside. They've always been conquered from within. Mm-hmm. So don't think you're going to come from the outside and defeat an establishment that's been in power for almost 300 years. Mm-hmm. You need to work from within the inside to get your concerns addressed. And don't think that, you know, I'm an individual, but yeah, I chose the Republican Party because when I was being raised, I was raised in a conservative household. I was raised in my family was in government, and they were part of a conservative government in the Bahamas. And when I came to the United States, I looked at both parties, and I weighed and I saw which one related both to where I come from, and it was the Republican Party. But it doesn't mean that I am going to stand here and forget the struggles and strife and the work that the black community has done, and then, you know, push them aside. That's not what I'm about. I'm about gaining representation where it's needed, when it's needed, and that's what I'm trying to do.
So, a follow-up question. So you're saying if we had more black Republicans at the table, the issues of the black people would be more addressed, and it's not about the agenda, and it's not about the money that keeps the agenda being pressed forward. So all of the black boys with the criminal records aren't there because of reasons because we're not at the table. It's there because of money. It's when you privatize prisons and you give geo contracts and you privatize everything, and you start out by making sure you fast track children from the 3rd grade into the prison system. It's done systematically, and it's done by design.
But that didn't happen overnight, right?
And we're not going to, but see, the thing is, if you know your history as you say you do, coming from inside, working you're blinded by whatever is going on because you're not looking at it from the outside. When you're living it and when you've been in it, when you're born in it, you done had it from the inside and the outside. And there is no way at this stage of the game that we can go, we can't do nothing but, like your brother said, out of Fort Lauderdale, is to try to break it up and vote and get as many Democrats or other voices into the mix as possible. But to say that we want to feed and fatten frog for snake by putting more and more Democrats into the party to fatten and strengthen their resolve and their position in things, it's far-fetched for us to believe that that's how we're going to make it, that we need more Republicans, be they black, white, or indifferent. Right now we know that the Democratic agenda is a little bit more safer for us than hoping and crossing our fingers and our toes, hoping that the agenda toward letting us vote, toward better schools, toward unemployment. You say we can't have unemployment when you take every job out of the community and send it overseas, and when we file for unemployment, oh, that's just a lazy person don't want to work.
No, but I'll tell you this. This issue didn't happen overnight. In the last 40 years, I'm including Obama's next two, but 40 years, you've had 20 years of Democratic rule and 20 years of Republican rule in the last 40 years. So it's not just the Republican agenda, not just the Democratic, it's both agendas that's sending jobs overseas. That didn't just happen under Republican rule. 40 years, 2020, both parties are responsible for that.
So do you know the issues in this community? You're now living in Martin County, correct?
I live in Turnquest.
Do you know the issues that we're facing?
I do.
One question.
I do. Yes, sir.
This is what I want before you close off. What I think Mr. Turnquest is trying to relate to is the fact that regardless of what party it is, we need an equal face to represent. Even though that he's a Republican, when he go home and lay down, I don't care what meeting he has to remember that where he come from, regardless of what party he's from. I think he's trying to relate to us to the fact that in the long-term picture, if we just focus on just vote because you're a Democrat, seem like that you're going to represent what you stand for, you got to look at what's best issue for your situation, whether Democrat or Republican. I think he's standing here trying to let us know that I'm here to take my blood and tears up there and represent, and I don't agree with everything the Republican Party stands for, but I'm letting you know what I stand for. I stand for the true values the same as you do, even though that I'm represented as a Republican, but I'm here to let you know I hear your cry. I'm here to fight for you. Whatever your issue is, my door is open for you. I'm just not out here just trying to get a vote from you. I'm out here because I'm trying to make a change in our community. Even though you're the question, I'm just saying, this is what I feel that you're saying. Because I have seen, being here in Martin County, let me tell you something, being here in Martin County, if you weren't registered as a Republican, you couldn't even vote for the sheriff, you couldn't vote for nothing. A Democrat just nothing, just because you registered as a Democrat. So you left out being president just because you're a Democrat. We have to, I'm just saying, I'm just utilizing what's been taking place here. You're closed out because the Republican Party controls Martin County in so many ways that a Democrat don't even exist. So I'm saying that this, I believe that Mr. Turnquest is trying to get us to understand, not trying to change your vote, but trying to let you know that you got to look beyond what we're looking at, that where our vote, just because we are black, or where that's all got to be about Democrat, but you got to look at the quality and the value of what's going to make a change up there in Washington, even though that we hear all these Republican Party against this and against that, that don't mean that everybody against that. See, we got to look at what this man is ground rooted, what he's trying to bring to us. Hey, I come from a hard work culture of people. I lay down at night. When I look at my children, I look at my folks, I see that they come up a hard way. I'm going there to fight for the quality and the value of what I come up, and I know that everybody have the equal right, whether you're black, white, because there's a lot of poor white that are hoping for the same thing that the blacks are hoping for, regardless of what our race is. We got to make a change in that. First of all, we got to get out and vote. See, that's what we don't do. We talking among each other in our community, but when it's time to really get down and do something, we sit behind there and say, well, I ain't going because I don't like this, I don't like that. But then there's another 10 years, you gotta deal with something and complain. We complain amongst each other, but not really behind what we really need to do. I think that's what Mr. Turnquest is trying to bring, that I get from it. That we need to
Turnquest, you're right.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Some states, when they get out of prison, they give them their rights, full rights, because they done paid the crime. They done paid for the crime. And they're able to go back to vote. Okay, now, in school, we don't have workshops no more in schools to say training, on-the-job training, so they can go out and get a job. So, what is your feeling about
Not
state
only-
of Florida we're talking about, where we got the big problem in the state of Florida, giving people back their rights when they done did and paid their debts to society for whatever they had done?
I 100% agree with you. If you commit a crime and you are sentenced and you serve your time, for all intents and rights and purposes, you have paid your obligations for the crime that you have committed. So I think you should be able to get your right to vote back as soon as you come back out. You did your time, you paid your price. So give you back your right. And this comes with, as your congressman, being the most influential person in the district,